For sensitive kids, question mark. It's just not gonna go over well. I'm awful, I know. It's okay, who needs a heart? Gunji makes me so happy. He joined Rex, and now he's dead. Hi guys, welcome back to another Rants video. We're here. We did it. We made it to the end of Bad Batch. Like, honestly, it brings me too much joy that I am able to release a Star Wars video on May the 4th. Like, the realization brought me way too much joy. But yeah, anyway, let's get into it. Season 3 of Bad Batch. It was a wonderful finale. I really liked it. I very much enjoyed it, and it was, I feel like there was no filler in this season. Everything was plot related, everything was very, very story and plot relevant, and everything added to the progressing the story. And so there wasn't any filler in this one, and they did it really, really well. I feel like filler serves a purpose, and there's definitely, like, if you just drive the story ahead with no stopping, sometimes that can lead to, a lack of character development or a lack of explanation for certain things. But since they were able to take some of the time that they did in like the first 2 seasons to get into character development and stuff, the lack of filler in this final season worked really well. And despite not having those like rest moments and being go and drive the plot ahead through the entire season, they still were able to take the characters that they did bring in and get like the proper development for how much they were involved in the story. Because we have like 3 clone cadets that show up on an abandoned like science facility because it's overrun by biologically engineered, like scientifically enhanced engineered vines or whatever that are kind of sentient and have turned into a monster. And that's a really fun episode. Anyway, just the concept of, hey, we basically made living vines and it did not go well for us, so we had to evacuate. And so then we have these 3 cadets they find that have been surviving since the evacuation, and they don't like serve a huge purpose to the plot. It's probably the closest we get to filler, is them finding these kids on the abandoned planet. But at the same time, it does end up, like, what happens and what's accomplished does end up lending to moving the story ahead. And so then I don't really count it as a filler. But those characters did get, for being in there for 1 episode, and then we, see them in the background later because they find no safe place for them to stay on Pabu, the island of Pabu. They do get a certain amount of character development. We get to see the difference between each of them, and it's very well done. So that's good. We also have 4 sensitive kids, question mark, that are kept in the vault. All spoilers in this one. No spoiler-free stuff is out the window at this point. It's good is pretty much the only spoiler-free thing that I have. But the 4 sensitive kids, question mark, or potentially 4 sensitive kids, they are there for enough episodes and they get enough, like, they're not in the action for most of it, and so they do get to kind of develop them a little bit. I feel like they're not super developed, but also the story doesn't center on them, so it's not a bad thing that it doesn't. So yeah, despite it having literally no filler episodes, which I'm totally fine with, it did develop things and develop story and characters and whatever else that were involved fairly well. We're just gonna start with the elephant in the room. Tech is dead. Tech is 100% dead. There were so many people theorizing that he was going to be one of the operatives, specifically the one that would not die. Like, there are 2 or 3 times that I'm almost like, oh, he's dead now, and then he comes back. I'm like, oh, nope, he just won't die. There were so many people theorizing that it was Tech and saying, hey, look at these similarities between them. It's not because they're both clothes, it's because they're both Tech. And there were so many people putting that hope out there. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna like put it past Dave Filoni or whatever to do that and bring him back in that way, because it could work. And it'd be a fun like twist to have at the end. But no, we didn't get that. Tech is dead. Tech is very much dead. Even if he was an operative, all the operatives are dead now, so he is like 100% dead. And it's sad, but I kind of like they didn't bring him back. Because that's such a, I don't know, it's an overused thing, having a death and resurrection. You can only do it so many times in, before it just gets like, oh, so there's no stakes anymore. Because with Echo, they pulled the resurrection card and went, okay, but he's not dead. You didn't see his body, so he's not dead, and now they're using him for whatever. And that one, when I initially, saw the episode with that, I was like, okay, really? And then I, accepted it after we got through the arc and whatever else of him being with the Bad Batch, and I was like, okay, I guess I can see it. We never got a body, whatever else. So I accepted it, but also I don't know. Having resurrections is a very, you have to be very careful when you do resurrections, because if you don't have enough groundwork and such to set that up, or it's just not going to go over well. I think they did have the groundwork to potentially bring Tech back, since we never got a body or anything, but the way it went, I'm actually very glad that they didn't. It's one, I love to see characters suffer and get to have them portray all these emotions and have them deal with the grief. I'm awful, I know, but I love seeing characters go through that and have to deal with these huge emotions and get to the point where they're like, okay, there's no hope at this point. We lost basically the one person that's holding our group together. And because Crosshair has a line in the finale, I think he says, Clone Force 99 is dead. It died with Tech. I was just like, it's okay, who needs a heart? But it's valid, and I kind of love that. And especially them, after having Crosshair say that line, having them not bring him back and being like, yeah, no, they have to figure out a completely new way to function because Tech is gone. And Tech held them together. He was the most grounded one. And so I actually really like they didn't bring him back. As sad as it is, I'm glad they didn't bring him back, and I'm glad that we got to have them deal with all this crap of them trying to grieve, and also through finding Omega during this process as well. I liked it, and I just wanted to get that out of the way right up front. So yeah. There's just the callbacks. The callbacks are great. I forgot to mention in my season 2 review, which I was kicking myself for after the fact, because I remembered, but it was like long enough after the video was posted. I'm just like, do I say anything about this? And then I just kept getting farther and farther past, and like, you know what? We'll just wait till season 3 comes out, and that got announced. So Gunji made an appearance in season 2, and I was so freaking happy. Gunji is the best. The Wookiee Jedi with the wooden lightsaber, and I love him so much. He's so great. He is around for one arc in Clone Wars and then one episode in Bad Batch season 2, and I love him so much. 1, because freaking Wookiee Jedi. 2, a wooden lightsaber. It's so great. And they mention him again in season 3 because Omega and Crosshair, you know, escape and find Hunter and So again. And Crosshair's dealing with like some PTSD stuff and aftermath of being experimented on, and so she's trying to help him, and so she's teaching him meditation. And he's like, "Where did you learn this?" It's like, "Hey, Gunji and the Wookiees taught me on Kashyyyk." Just, it's another Tuesday. I went to Kashyyyk and saved a Jedi Wookiee. But I'm like, I'm so happy. Gunji makes me so happy. He's so great. And he survived Order 66, which means there is potential for him to show up in other animated projects, which I'm not against, as long as they're good animated projects. Other callback character that showed up in this season, Asajj Ventress shows up for an episode. I'm just like, whoa, okay, cool. Asajj Ventress with hair and, was it yellow lightsabers? Okay. She's gone kind of bounty hunter, and she's trying to help them figure out whether they want Omega because she's force sensitive or not. So that was fun, and seeing Asajj Ventress basically going, oh, yeah, I'm not evil. I'm not this Sith assassin lady anymore. I'm not the person I was in the war. And having the contrast of Omega, who didn't know all of the things that happened in the war, and the rest of the squad who's like, we know exactly what she did. She's kind of awful. We don't trust her to take care of you. And then having the kind of the development, like, it's a little fast, but I like how they do it. Like, we trust Omega, and Omega is choosing to trust Ventress. And so we're gonna be little stalker dads from the top of Pabu while they're training out on the ocean, but we will keep our distance. So it's a fun development. And also on the note of that episode, I actually also love that they did not make Omega's force sensitive, because I feel like that was a whole theory that was happening from like season 1. It's like, oh, Omega's gonna be force sensitive. I'm just like, no though, because she is, according to, what was it? They found out at the end of season 1. According to the story, she is a 100% clone of Jango Fett. And so she's like the closest they have to, and like an original that they have, that they have. And so Jango Fett wasn't force sensitive. I know it differs from person to person, and they're all clones, and so they're technically different people, but they're also cloned from a non-force sensitive person. So that's my issue with people going, oh, force sensitive clone. I'm like, okay, but they were cloned from a guy who isn't force sensitive. I'm not saying it's impossible, and if they found a good way to explain it, cool. But I really like that they did not make Omega force sensitive, but instead she's like a binder for midichlorians. And so when they're trying to clone a midichlorian count, they can match it instead of it decreasing as they clone more, because it's like diluting the DNA essentially. So I really like how they did that, instead of just like, oh, she's force sensitive, and they needed her to do it because she has like a similar midichlorian count to the whatever they're trying to clone, which I think is the Emperor, because, you know, they're working with what they got from the Disney sequels, and in that it's like, oh, Emperor's working on cloning stuff. So they're considering what they were given to work with after the sequels. They feel like they're making a very cool story out of what they were given from that material. It's like, okay, what do we lean into? What are they developing throughout these different eras of Star Wars, like post-Empire, with going up into like the Mandalorian, which doesn't lean in too much into it, but you know, they're creating stories within these time periods that are, or technically Ahsoka takes place in that time period as well, but doesn't deal with as much what the Emperor was planning. But like, considering what they were given to deal with the sequels, they really are, like, at least Dave Filoni and stuff are making the most of that whatever material they were given to create these better stories, and I appreciate that. So it was actually an interesting story, and it lets me go, okay, I'm starting to understand. It's like, not, the Emperor doesn't just like show up out of nowhere or whatever. It's like they're starting to help it make sense, but they're not going to be able to redeem the sequels. Excuse me. But, you know, they're making the most of the material, of whatever, you know, Disney left them with, which I appreciate. And Dave Filoni's doing a good job. Dave Filoni always does a good job. Like, Dave Filoni should be in charge of Star Wars. Seriously. I don't trust anyone else with Star Wars stuff. But yeah, so I really like how they did that. I appreciate that it wasn't just, oh, Omega's more sensitive now. I appreciate that she was just like, no, she can just, because her blood just works in a way that they can make a clone's DNA midichlorian count match whatever the host was. So that was cool, and I appreciated that. And it was, I think it was much cooler than her being Force sensitive, and a lot more of an interesting reason, and it made more sense than just, oh, we want her because she has a strong midichlorian count. It's like, no, she just allows us to match. So yeah. Words. I don't have many anymore. Not after that finale. I love the operatives. I love them so much. They're so cool. We mostly get the one, because I think they start showing up in season 2, like one of them shows up. And so then they discover, oh, they're just clones, but they've been like brainwashed, and now they've been turned into these highly dangerous stealth operatives. Cool! And then another one shows up and dies, and then we have the main one that kind of acts as a secondary villain through the second half of the season. The one that everyone was trying to believe was Tech. And so we have him. He's just cool. And I love how his interactions with everybody. And then on top of that, at the end, in the finale, we get basically Hemlock goes, oh, they have found my base. We are going to activate all of my operatives and basically send an army of highly trained brainwashed clones after these 3 like mutated clones. Needless to say, they get their butts kicked the first time, and it's great. And I love that each of the operative clones has like a specific skill set. Essentially, we've got one with swords, we have one that seems to be similar to Wrecker with his strength, and one with like this electric staff. And they all have the overall look is the same, but they have like unique helmets and whatever else, and I love it. I love it so much. They're so cool. And then the second battle, they all get like brutally murdered, and I'm like, okay. Well, murdered. They brutally killed. Killed is the word I'm looking for. One gets his head smashed through a wall, one gets stabbed with his own staff. It's like, yeah, they get taken out, like, brutally. And, it's just, I love them. I love them. Yeah, it's so good. We also have, was it Captain Hauser? I feel so bad because I really liked him in the season 2, the one that initiates a rebellion among they're on whatever planet it is. This makes me feel really bad that I don't remember stuff. I'm pretty sure it's Hauser, but yeah, he like talks to Hunter, whatever else, and then rises up against and goes against an Imperial order, and some of his other men do as well, and then they get arrested. Anyway, he joined Rex, and now he's dead. He shows up again to die. Why? Why would you do this? You made so many people go like, that is a great clone character. In the span of when he shows up for 1 episode, and then people were like, yes, he's one of the fan favorites, and then you kill him. in a fairly brutal way. Like, he goes and he gets blown up and crushed trying to kill the main operative guy who is trying to capture Omega. I'm like, no! No! Why? Why you gotta make things so sad? I get it's the era where they're phasing clones out and they're finding uses for clones, and so they have the torturing of the operatives and whatever else, and they're experimenting on them to figure out how to clone the Emperor, is what I assume. And so clones are getting killed and rising up against the Empire. Yes, it's a dark time for the clones, but still, why? So yeah, that was just a little sad. Anyway, yeah, oh, we should also talk about Emery. Because Emery is a clone out of nowhere. It was a little out of nowhere. Like, at the end, when Omega's captured and she's in the base or whatever for the first time, Emery goes, yeah, no, I'm a clone too. I'm like, oh, okay, what? And it doesn't play a huge role in anything that's happening, so I don't fully understand why they made her a clone, except to make her more of a relatable character for Omega. And so she takes more sympathy on Emery and tries to get through to her more. I think that's the main reason they made her a clone, because that's really the only use it serves throughout the story. And then, because the way it plays out, and her eventually turning on Hemlock at the end and helping Echo rescue the Force sensitive kids, it would have made sense even if she weren't a clone. And it's Omega, so I feel like she would try to get through to Emery even if she weren't a clone. I think they just made her a clone so it's like more reason and more more reason for her to be like, hey, you're like me, why are you doing this, is essentially I think the reason they made her a clone. So I was like, whatever about her being a clone, and I kind of like, I didn't forget that she was a clone, but like, it wasn't an important detail. So whatever, I guess. But yeah, also Hemlock's just a giant douchebag. He's a giant douchebag. Not the most hateable villain or character that I've ever encountered, but he is a giant douchebag. And I am glad that he fell to his death after getting shot 3 times. So I think he died and then fell. But, you know, same difference. Also, Zillow Beast. I didn't mention that in season 2 either. The Zillow Beast comes back and gets captured by the Empire, and they're using it for their experiments. They never actually explain entirely what they're doing with it, except I think there was a slight hint that maybe they'd try and clone it. But yeah, I don't actually remember if they told us the purpose of them having the Zillow Beast. But yeah, Omega, being a smart little girl, she finds a way to get out of the vault and release the Zillow Beast to give them a distraction to escape. And so she straight up escapes by herself. And only reason Echo has to help her is because they get caught at the very end of their escape. I'm just like, okay, she's capable. I appreciate this. Her voice might be a little weird sometimes. Like, the accent is a little strange. But I'm not bad about her character. I know some people think she's obnoxious or really annoying, but I don't think she is. In season 1, maybe a little bit more, but as the seasons, like in season 2 and then definitely in season 3, she gets a little bit better, and she's not as annoying. She's actually just full up not annoying. So it's very fun. And then we'll discuss the very end. And then if we need to discuss more things, we can do it in the comments. But off the top of my head, this is just things off the top of my head. I do not plan for these videos. I just turn the camera on and start talking. So yeah, the ending, the very end. I'm not like, one, they get to settle down in Pabu. Yay, peace, finally. But the biggest thing is the last scene, literally the last scene. It's a time skip. And so Omega's between 16 and 19 is my best guess. And she runs off to join the rebellion and give them pilots. And Hunter stops her and gives her a little talk and goes, I'm not going to try and stop you. Because this is your choice, this is your journey, and I believe you're ready for this. It's like, but mostly, I'm here to say goodbye. And it's just... It's old Hunter. Seeing old Hunter and just being like, oh, he got to grow old in peace with... He literally calls Omega, like, their kid. I'm like... He's accepted his identity as a father. Even though Omega's technically older than them. But yeah, that's a nice little heartwarming scene at the very end, and then she flies away and Tech's broken goggles are sitting on the like dashboard essentially of the ship, and I'm just like, oh, way to just stab me in the heart one more time before we end this. It was really, really good. I very much enjoyed this show. It was definitely, I think, on par with Clone Wars. It was very good. Oh, man. They eventually made me care about Wrecker's character, which is an achievement since he started out in season 7 of Clone Wars as literally just the stereotypical dumb muscle character. And they gave him a character and they made me care about him. And I'm so happy. He's such a softie. I feel like I would compare him to a giant teddy bear who could kill you. That's essentially Wrecker. Oh, I also love the dynamic of the others coming to trust Crosshair again after he comes back, and Omega having her like special relationship with Crosshair, and basically her being the bridge between them until they learn to accept him and trust him again. And it's just, oh, it's so good. It's so good. I love it so much. I think that's all I got off the top of my head. I'm sure there are more things. Feel free to discuss things in the comments. I will gladly rant with everybody down there. But yeah, I post videos on this channel every Wednesday and Saturday. I post videos on my audiobook channel on Thursdays. And I'll see you guys next time. May the 4th be with you.